Hey, hello, Pam Gallagher. Today is March 29th, 2020. Let me scare you. Hi. In real life. There you go. Okay. Just add a little humor to this whole thing. It is what it is, people. So, just a little piece of information. First of all, yes, I am recording. See the red dot? Tell you people know. We are recording, and I wanted you to know that when we did the last week, what I didn't know is that Adobe, that I knew that our membership was, but I didn't realize it was 100, and so it locked people out after 100. But we had over 700 hits on YouTube last week, and so thank you for that. I tried to. It was a call to action for people to try to think what we're doing here, think how we're responding. And so thank you for sharing it with other people and encourage them to listen. If not anything else, hopefully it gave people a little bit of direction. And again, of course, we will start with prayer and visualization and intent are very, very powerful. They're the driving force of energy. And we are conscious beings, and we do have an ability to impact outcome. Let me say that again. We do have the ability to create different results by directing energy. We can direct the outcome. Energy is pure. It's neither good nor bad. So how can we use this energy? I talked last week about, these are changing times, obviously, and I do believe we are in the dark night before the dawning of the new age, and we're in the balsamic moon for those of you who have studied, the last phase of the moon, when it's dark before it becomes new. So Mindy is telling you, yes, we're recording. We will post it on YouTube when we're done. And then you're welcome to share it. So just for people that don't know me as well, I'm Pam Gallagher. I've been studying astrology for 50 years this year. Was just a baby learning to read. No, teasing. I was bitten with the bug, well, on the way to get a PhD in psychology, and decided so Mindy with the baby. True, she was a baby when I started all this. I was on a search for why are we here and what is this for, what is life's purpose, and here we are now at sort of another crossroads of why are we here and what is this for. And so in looking for bigger reasons, bigger purpose, we turn to bigger clocks and bigger symbols. And the cosmic tapestry is our roadmap. I mean, it is energy, it's an energy in motion, and that's what we're looking at on a much higher perspective. You'll never find a civilization that's ever been studied on this planet that was not watching and taking their lead from the planetary patterns in the sky. I've done a lot of history study, as you know, many of you. My master's thesis was on the different religions of the world. And the power of 12, actually, is what I focused in on. But which was, astrology brought me that, and I was in my 20s when I found it. So what we're looking at today is today's chart. We're looking at the current now in energy patterns. I put up a few other ones, and we're going to look at past energies too. But let's talk what most of us are tuned in here about this isn't an astrological lecture today. It's really a life timing talk. Where are we? What can we do? The sun is at 9 degrees Aries today. That means for 9 days the sun has been in Aries. Aries is a fire energy. It's an action energy. It's a driving energy. So with Mars and with the sun in Aries and us locked down, that makes for restlessness. When you curtail a fire, however, it creates great power. So if you curtail a fire, you can either get a rebellious energy or you can get a really focused source of power. So let's contain the energy, let's contain the fire, and let's use it. Let's use the fire. So, and I've given a great deal of thought to how I can use this time, and have come up with some interesting astrological things. Another book that I should write, and more information on how to do that about the soul. And many of you know I've talked about the draconic chart, which is a different astrology chart based on a different zodiac system, which I think is much more indicative of our soul being here. And so that seems to be flaring up for me. And I ask each one of you, and I asked you last time, to sit down and particularly on the 24th, on the Aries new moon, and make a list of what do you want for this year? What are your intentions? How do you want to use this Aries fire energy? Do you want to get frustrated and trapped, or do you want to be focused and have a driving force to use, to aim that fire? Choice is up to you. So the sun today is at 9 Aries, and the moon today is in Gemini, and Gemini is a chatty, communicative learning, so we got a little more learning curve today, whether you like it or not. I'm going to talk a little more in energy language. That's who I am. The other big thing you're looking at is that we talked last week that Saturn was at 29 Capricorn last week, a critical degree, final degree of Capricorn, and Saturn has moved into a 0 Aquarius, the next sign. Mars now is at 29 Capricorn. Mars is sitting on the powerful degree. And Mars hasn't left Capricorn, and we're watching it, and we're watching the struggle. Tomorrow, the next day, Mars will conjunct Saturn. If I go up here and I move us forward one day, you will see that Mars, the warrior, there it is. On the 31st, around noon. Today is Sunday, so it's Tuesday. Mars and Saturn will be conjunct. And I had told you all that by the time we got to the 31st to the 1st of April, I thought that it would become more clear, the seriousness, and that Saturn is the planet of restriction and minimalization and confinement, because Saturn is a grounded energy. That's its job, is to minimize. And Mars is with Saturn, and this is a driving force to minimize, to get down to basics. Get down to basics, Mars, Saturn, and do the work. People that have Mars, Saturn in their chart, they are the workers. It's like get the work done, focus, work first. And so there we are. And over the next 2 days, we have Mars coming in to exactly hit Saturn. Now, even if we go out a couple of more days, we're still going to have Mars on Saturn. I mean, we got to wait until Mars gets 2 or 3 degrees out away from Saturn before we start to feel a real easement. But point is, we are in the eye of the hurricane. We're in the center of the tornado at this point. And that's what we are. As we get to April 2nd, which is what, 31st, Thursday, next Thursday, Mercury is coming into conjunct Neptune. Now, this is a really interesting, Mercury goes all the way around every year, Neptune only moves 3 degrees in a whole year. It's not going anywhere. But Mercury's all the way around and is now approached at 17. Neptune's at 19. Mercury's approaching it. What does that mean? Over this next week, your intuition, your spiritual guidance, your insight is stronger than it will be at any other time during the year, just on a general global space. People that have those planets have intuition and insight naturally, the Mercury, Neptune people in Pisces, but for all of us. So it is a time when you want to meditate, journal, get quiet, listen. You know, did you know that listening is a real art? And not just to other people, but listening to your own inner voice. And most people don't know how to do that. So I encourage you this next week, take this opportunity that the universe is giving us, Mars, Saturn, and Capricorn, to do the hard work, to shut down, to minimize, to get simple, to get basic, and intuit, listen, hear. This is a very psychic time. Those of you that are already intuitive, I encourage you to sit with your notebook, your blank paper, and journal and write what it is you're receiving. We have 2 choices, people. We can ignore the energy. We can fight the, well, 3. We can ignore the energy. We can fight the energy. Or we can embrace the energy. Let me suggest, let's embrace it. It behaves so much more nicely when we do. So, you'll notice that Jupiter and Pluto are still at 24. We are in the thick of it. Here it is, energy. So, on a bigger scale, all right, but that's current time and over the next week, and how can you use this? And Mars, Saturn says hunker down, do the basics, get grounded, get simple. What's important? What's not important? I mean, everybody's writing that. You know, it's the time to reevaluate. But what is the universal principle here? You know, all of a sudden the reality comes with all of our communication and our electronics that we're one planet, one people, and survival would be nice. So what can we do? We can try to stay focused. We can try to stay positive. We can use this energy. Today is the sun's at 13. That's 17 more degrees before the sun leaves Aries, because there's 30 degrees in a sign. And it moves a degree a day, so do your math. 13 from 30, there's 17 degrees in a sign. The sun will leave Aries in 17 days from April 2nd. Well, that's April 19th. So, which is interesting, because I had already written that we have a new moon on, and I'll come back to it, April 22nd, in Taurus. So we will be in a much more stable energy at that point in time. Let's go to, let me cancel that and get out of here. There, back to today. Let's try to stay in the now. I do know quite a few people now that have contacted the coronavirus, but everybody so far has survived. I don't know of anybody that hasn't made it. So that's a good sign. It's a good sign because it tells me we're a little stronger. Okay. Let's talk about what's coming here. Oh, let me tell you first. Before we got turned on the recording, and some of you joined us right here at the last minute, on Easter Sunday, the 12th, April Sunday, at 2 o'clock, I will do one more broadcast of this to bring us up to date and look at how we're doing with the planets, how we're using the energy, how successful we're being. Remember the pink light and visualizing the planet in pink, calling to Archangel Michael. We're calling to the angels, whoever it is that to you represents spirituality and wholeness and love and clarity. You call to them because it is written throughout the Bible and throughout all of the different teachings that the spoken word, the call compels the answer. The direct call, invocation, which is prayer or chanting or visualization or whatever method, talks to you. But make the call for healing. Make the call for love. If we believe in it, then don't forget to do it. Twice a day, in the morning and at night. If just the ones on here do it and tell the other 700 people that hit, and they told one other person, look how much impact we would have had. If you'll just do that, what's it take, 1 minute? So I implore you to do that. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not, whether you can see it or not, just do it. Like, you know what, it might help, but, can't hurt, right? So, let's do the work. Okay, so what's happening? We're coming up to June, and I've told you, let's be real, people. Everybody says, oh, next week they're going to open everything up. I doubt it. I think we got 2 weeks out. Looking at these transits, and why do I say that? And of course, I'm going to show you. But the eclipses are coming, and what we call the eclipse season is between June 5th and July 5th this year, 2020. This summer we will have 3 eclipses, usually only 2. We have one very total eclipse on June 21st and 2 partial eclipses, one on June 5th and the other one on July 5th. But they're very wide. They're 14, 15 degrees out, so not as significant. The solar eclipse, now this is a different style wheel. It's still a wheel. I did it because it shows more dynamically what we're looking at. And in June, we have a solar eclipse at 0 degrees Cancer. Now, that's a cardinal point. It's the beginning of the summer solstice. It's at 0 degrees. It's always critical. And it's a world point. Those 0 Aries, 0 Cancer, 0 Libra, 0 Capricorn are world points. They're the four seasons. They've recognized them, and it's actually where the position of the sun is against Earth for thousands of years. It's not a new thought. This eclipse is only 1 degree off the node. It makes it a very total eclipse. It's new moon, which is new energy. I wanted to show you, this solar eclipse is in a difficult aspect to the Saturn-Jupiter. So between June and December, when Saturn and Jupiter will make their conjunction 0 Aquarius, our job is to create a new social order. Jupiter-Saturn. It's about society, it's about relationships, and it's about our socialization process. And so this solar eclipse is calling us with the new moon to re-impact the Jupiter-Saturn. Jupiter-Saturn, the societal planets. And in December, these two will actually be exact on December 21st, which is the winter solstice, at 0 Aquarius. And so everyone feels that this is really the birthing of the new age, and that we're in the dark night and we're in this birthing process. And so during the incubation period, it's struggle. We're in the dark of the night and we can't see where we're going, but let us continue on in faith and we'll get there. So this is the solar eclipse. The sun and the moon are together, and they're in a very tight 0 aspect to Saturn. I'm going to go back and show you this eclipse. That's interesting. This is where it's actually exact in Tibet. If you'll notice something, in this chart, we did it for Washington, D.C., okay? It's because you always do a chart, a global chart, or what they call mundane worldly chart, for the capital of the country. Well, the United States is our country, and so Washington, D.C. is our capital. The moon, you can't see. So one of the gals online said, does this have? Yes, it has a definition on the ingress chart. The ingress chart's an eclipse, which is a changing of the world. It's a there's the ingress chart of zero Cancer, which we do in the summer, but it's very impactful. Lost my thought. Washington, D.C., you can't see the eclipse from here. Here is where the eclipse will be visible. If you're in Tibet, if you're in Hong Kong, if you're on the other side of the world, you're going to see it. What does Pluto play in all this? Well, I'm going to go back to that. So let's talk about this little group party down here. Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn. Pluto's job. Pluto is our most outer planet at this point in our solar system. They've found other outer bodies, but considering that Pluto takes somewhere between 245, 248 years to go around, depending upon where you are in the site, what you consider to be the starting point. That's the time for the full orbit. So that's 245 to 248 years, a long time. Pluto rules power. It rules intensity. Pluto rules struggle. Pluto rules transformation. Now, the word transformation is an interesting word, but to transform is to shift in totality, is to change the form of. So I like to use the word shift in language. And so Pluto and Jupiter are still, Jupiter's coming back, and we'll go back over Pluto over the summer. We have three, and last week I showed you all that the Jupiter-Pluto joining is happening now, and it will happen this summer, and then again in November. So this Jupiter-Pluto goes on, and Saturn came up here to Aquarius, is coming back to 25 Capricorn and back up again. These three are doing this dance throughout until Jupiter conjuncts Saturn at 0 Aquarius on December 21st and moves on, when we have a new structure. And Pluto has managed to transform us. So what started back in December and January with this deeper transformation, this major shift, is continuing on. But at this level, I doubt it. So I'm going to show you. I have a... here it is. Let's see what else. Here it is. This was the eclipse pattern in 2000. Eclipses repeat every 19 years. And so this was the eclipse of 2001, June 21st, 2001. And it was also at 0 Cancer. And it went over South Africa now. But we did have a total solar eclipse on that date. And here we go with, this is the eclipse where it's visible. The whole world's going to feel it. But you've got Tibet to Hong Kong where it is at its peak of visibility. Now let's go back and talk about 2001 for just a moment, when this eclipse occurred last. And if you think about June of 2001, and you think about the 3 months before and the 3 months after, with the solar eclipse, they would say 6 months before and 6 months after. What would you think of? Obviously, the most obvious is on 9/11/2001, our world changed. Yep, the Twin Towers. You're right, Karen. So, let's think about, is it going to be the same? No. But this eclipse was at a total point, on a critical degree, at an ingress point to a cardinal point. And I didn't bring up that chart, but this eclipse is in alignment with the Saturn-Jupiter-Pluto quincunx. And a quincunx is an adjustment or a stress aspect. And so this eclipse is calling for us to make an adjustment, deal with the stress, and find new ways of doing things. So obviously we're doing that with the internet, with at home schooling, stay in place orders. By all means, do carry out with your local restaurants that you like and you trust. Keep those people in business. Anything that we can do to contribute to the lifestyle that we've liked and grown accustomed to. We won't perish without some of our bells and whistles, I promise, but we like them, so I don't know. So this solar eclipse, so you'll notice when I go over to Tibet and Hong Kong, then it's visible. That they're going to see it because it's overhead, and so it is visible there. There are no other major. Yes, Mars has moved into a sextile. In June, we're in good shape, but I want to get back a little closer to current time. Let us go. Here's the full moon that we're coming up with. So, the full moon of April 8th. Now, today's the 29th. That's 9 days away. We know that we go from new moon to full moon is waxing, and it's running out of time here, and I better talk faster. So a full moon is waxing between new and full. And so coming into this full moon at 18 Libra, 18 Aries, things will culminate. They're still, and I had told you guys last week, we're not going to know. We're not going to know until, Lynn, I know. Nobody's going anywhere. They don't have any hot dates outside the house. So as we apply to this full moon, we're coming into an Aries Libra, which is a very social pairing to listen, to look at, of people and basics. There is a stress aspect to Venus. And in that chart, the stress is still here because it's a Libra full moon and Venus rules Libra. And so Venus, that planet that rules it, is in a hard stress aspect and a tight one at that. So it's pretty exact. So it says we are still in high stress by the 8th. Make no mistake. For those of you who've studied and understand that that's we're still in this high stress pattern. So we don't expect, it all to lay down and quit, believe me. So as we move forward to the new moon on April 22nd, Linda's typing. What you got there, Linda? Do you think this may be the peak of the outbreak? Yes, I do. I think that full moon and all those stresses are the peak of the thing. And I think we know where we stand. Full moons culminate. They bring things to a head. Let me go back to that for just a second. So you've got see, the moon has been getting fuller and fuller and fuller. Once the moon opposes the sun, it's called a full moon. We see the full face of the moon. It does it every month. It does it every 28 days. Surprise. So then it will begin to wane. But as it's building, and as it gets closer to full, here's a great emotional peak. Well, it's between now and the 8th, people. Now, this is a 3. Huh. Oh, that's interesting. Obviously, it's going to be seen best in England. Have fun. The chart is the chart. It just depends on what houses, and I'm not reading houses, so kind of fun, though. But this is the chart of the full moon. You can place it in different locations around the world, and it'll tell you what time you'll see it as a full peak. Clock time. It's based on the clock, but the chart is the chart, so don't worry about that. The chart for a full moon is a chart of a full moon anywhere in the world. So you're still going to get this pattern. So we've got the full moon at 18 Libra Aries. Remember, moon in Libra, it's called according to the moon. And so the moon in Libra is ruled by Venus. And Venus is the ruler of the full moon, and it's in a stress aspect, and it's also in a stress aspect to the sun. So Venus is in what we would call a semi-square to the sun. It's a stress aspect. So, however, well, the Venus trine, yes, that's where I was going now. So, exactly. We've got Venus in a stress aspect to the moon. The moon is emotional. So we're high emotion. We're in stress aspect to the sun. Difficult to move forward. However, Venus is still the ruler of the full moon, and it is in trine harmony to the Mars-Saturn. And so here is where we start to get a break in the energy. Here's where we start to get the break in the energy. We have the stressors, and then we have the trine to that Mars-Saturn conjunction. Now, as we begin to see, Venus is coming in to apply. Venus moves faster than Mars. So Venus has not yet come to the 5 degrees of Mars. So it's called an applying aspect. So Venus is applying to this harmony point of Mars. Venus and Mars are very personal action planets. So here's our break. This is what we're waiting for. And so in the meantime, it's sit tight, make the best of it, do your spiritual work, and use this creative energy the best you can. Once we have the full moon, the energy peaks, we can then hope. Now here's the new moon of April 22nd. And in the next talk we'll know more. Let me tell you that this is not cast in stone, and anybody that says they can tell you when or what is fooling you. Because it depends on whether we do our work. As a consciousness, as a civilization, as a community of conscious beings, can we raise our vibration? Can we get to a higher point? Can we get serious about this? Be careful what we say. Please don't put things on the internet that are negative and judgmental and critical. But dear God, we have enough of that. What's it going to do? It only shuts down the energy. I think I told you last week, it creates negative balls of energy, negative thought forms, which are really hard to cut through, quite frankly. So Linda says, which is the bigger stressor, an opposition or a square? An opposition is considered to be the most difficult because it's a direct challenge, but it's obvious. I think that the square is the bigger challenge. So here we go to the new moon. When we get to the new moon, April 22nd, now keep in mind the sun and moon now are, before they were in opposition in Aries Libra, now they are together. That's what a new moon is. The sun and moon are together. And they are in Taurus. And any of you that have studied it all know that Taurus is ruled by the planet Venus. Venus is kingpin. Back to Venus. You've watched commercials and when Venus and Mars are floating around on the screen. Venus is female, Mars is male. But it's an attraction principle. Venus is at 15. Venus moves faster than Mars. If Venus is at 15, Mars is at 16. Venus is still applying to Mars. Because Venus is moving faster, it's catching up with Mars very slowly. Isn't that fun? Because when we went back and looked at the full moon, let me go back to it just a second. Venus is at 3, Mars is at 5, right? So Mars is moving on 3/4 of a degree a day, and Venus is probably moving a little less than. Look at them, Mars and Venus moving almost the same speed. So by the time we get to the new moon, because Venus is getting ready to slow down to go retrograde, and Mars is picking up speed. So Venus and Mars are still in trine. They're still in harmony. But now, when we get to the 22nd, Venus is actually joining up with Mars and saying, okay, let us get on with it. This new moon, which is new beginning, new joining of energy, new starts, is going to square the Jupiter-Saturn. Now that's why it's really squaring the Saturn, but because they're all conjunct, you have to consider them to be, you can look at it that way. It's more dramatic. It's what David uses. Here's another way to look at it, and here's the way we usually look at it with class. Oh, I don't want to go to the midheaven. Okay. Here's your Saturn. Here's the squares between all of this stuff. The red. You can see the trine. The trine line's very, very strong between Venus and Mars. Okay, so this is where we turn. This is where it all turns. I was looking at your, okay. I had to look at my notes for a second. This new moon is very close to Uranus, and Uranus's change. If you study the energies as an energy pattern, Uranus is restlessness. It's a desire for change. It's an unstable energy. It's a scientific, it's a pushing forward energy. It's a very dynamic energy. This new moon's triggering it. Triggering Uranus. It says everybody's restless. We are ready to go. The horse is at the gate. Well, and so that's where I was going. I hadn't even seen that, but that's on my notes. Uranus is with the moon. Yes, Uranus is with the moon, sun. So, what does that mean? Some of my students, past students, are all discussing online with it. It's great, isn't the Uranus caution about not being too reckless? Is Uranus caution, or is it just describing everybody's restlessness and desire for change and to get moving? However, Taurus is a fixed earth sign. It is stable. It is solid. And so, even though it's a new moon and we have the Venus-Mars trine, we must come out of this in a Taurus, slow, cautious, solid method. Because this new moon, and the moon is certainly involved with Uranus. And it's all squaring Saturn. And Saturn is the planet of what? Minimizing, being realistic, withdrawal, loneliness, isolation. There it is. It says, man, we're coming out of this, but we got to do it slowly. So the minute they open the doors, don't go running out and take off. Be wise, go slow. If we can do re-entry at a more reasonable level, I don't think we have to repeat it. Let me say something else. This eclipse that I showed you in June is right over China and Hong Kong and Tibet and that whole area. If they don't heed their own warnings, they could relapse. It's a very critical energy. It doesn't say it has to. It just says there's a peak of energy and they are in it. A lot of people are saying that 2018, when the eclipse culminated over the United States, that we're seeing the effects. I think that we are seeing the new eclipse of June, it's just a total solar eclipse, June 21st, is bringing the same kind of crisis transition energy that we had on 9/11/2001, because that eclipse hit in the end of June, July, August, September. It was in 3 months, right? We'll do 3 months that way. Finishing. So Pluto, yes, Pluto's still involved. And Pluto and Jupiter, Saturn are this transforming long-term energy. Astrologers have been talking on the vibrational conference that I've been listening to this weekend. Bill Meridian, one of the top financial people in the world, spoke at this class, and he had all kinds of opinions about the market, and he thinks the market, is going to slide and come back, and he's not a doomsday person with that at all, because they're watching much bigger patterns, and he's usually right. So he gave a very impressive talk, and I enjoyed it. You can look him up, Bill Meridian, New York City. But going to that point, here, let me close with this. The Jupiter-Saturn conjunction Now, back in 2000, this was the chart of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. It happens every 20 years. It was in Taurus. It was in an earth sign. It changed societal world order, and quite frankly, it was kind of the precursor probably to 2001 and the 9/11 event, and because it all dumped down into Pluto, and we had a major transformation shift in our whole lifestyle. The whole world reacted and changed how they live as a result of the 9/11 incident. But it was right after the Jupiter-Saturn. Well, here's the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction of 2020. There it is again. It's at 0 degrees of Aquarius, the new age, the change. It's been in earth signs for 212, 215 years. Basically, almost the age of our country. And now it's going into Aquarius, calling for a new type of leadership, a new type of societal energy. So, this Jupiter-Saturn, we want to look at that, and doing it for Washington, D.C., but we have, when the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction occurs, it does make a very positive aspect to Sun-Mercury. We have a sextile or a positive energy. What does that mean? So we have, by the time we get to December, I think we're going to have a new structure, a new design, Jupiter-Saturn, society behavior. I think we're going to operate a little differently, perhaps a little more cautiously, I hope. Let's be respectful of the energy, and of one another. Everybody's kind of isolated. That's very much a Saturn thing. When we get here, we come into a new way of socializing in a new world order, and this will set a new business trend as well. But it's in Aquarius now. It's in air, not earth. So it's also in sextile to the sun, which is positive. The sun is the center of our solar system. It's the center of our world. And so by December, we're going to come out of this with a different framework and a different way of being. And it's going to be, I was looking at, wait a minute, where are the nodes then? Nodes aren't in here, okay. Oh, there it is, 19 Gemini, so it'll be 19 Sag. The nodes will be squaring Neptune, there it is, I knew. So the nodes are the spiritual axis of the chart, and they will be squaring Neptune, calling us to a higher spiritual purpose. Might we become a little bit more spiritual country? Might we become a little more attuned to other people and people in our world? Let us hope. Let us hope. Let's hope that that's where we're going. So I say, let's go back here to current time. And we'll bring it to a chart we're used to looking at, which is today. And the nodes now are still in the Aries, the Cancer Capricorn, but let me show you. By April 22nd, the nodes, look at this. When I talked about April 2nd and the new moon and the new day and the new energy, the nodes will be at 0. The North Node will be at that 0 Cancer point. And so it's here that we start this new cycle into June 21, where we have the solar eclipse, moving into the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in December 21, that is 0, opening a new way of being. So here we are. Here we are. We are sitting at a very exciting time, and we're being tested. And we're being tested. And you're like, wow, look at this. But now, we hope is quicker than you think. And people I know are feeling a little dire, if you would. But you know what? This is only 3 weeks away. So what are we supposed to do in the 3 weeks? Go within. Do your Mercury-Neptune over the next week and a half. Meditate, sing. Do you think this will shift our focus on each country on their own resources? Yes, on our resources. Well, resources are going to change. But I can tell you what, this Sun, Moon, and Taurus, it says we're looking at our own resources here, and Uranus and how we deal with them. Um, remember, these maps are world maps. They're not just for the United States. The whole world is feeling this energy. This is, I mean, now I can put it in Washington, D.C. and what area of life is it triggering, but the pattern itself is a world energy. So, yes, Bob and Linda, 3 weeks of inner work. Remember that I talked about when we go to let's go back to the full moon on April 8th. Between now and then, and let's get to something we can see. And I talked about, even by the 8th, Mercury has now cleared Neptune. So between now and the 4th, 5th, even the 8th of April, on this full moon, is the time for us to find the moon in Libra balance, inner balance. Libra is just not about relationships and other people. It's about ourselves. It's how are we with each other, with ourselves. How are you with you? How good are you with you? Are you restful? So, I want you to visualize, meditate. If you don't do anything else, just do that 1 minute of prayer for the planet. Anchor yourself to the grid. See the planet filled in pink light. Call to the angels to come in and do their work. Be part of the consciousness. Be a being of light. Be an anchor for the powers that be, to help heal and cleanse and strengthen this planet. Yes, by all means, when you're circling don't forget about you. Put your own mask on first, right? Put your own oxygen mask on first. And then circle your own family and then spread it out into the world. Let's get back. Let's become the best people we can be. Let us honor this Mercury-Neptune spiritual time that we're in. Let's embrace that. So, having said all that, I think I've said what I got to say today. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. And thank you for sharing with other people. I think it's very important. Go out and make sure that you ask other people to also try to stay in the now, be positive, and do your spiritual work, whatever that is. Okay? All right. Andrea times 3, that's cute. All right, so we will stop the recording. Mindy will put it on